Welcome back to Season 1 of Snubs and Dubs, where we're talking the snubs and dubs of the 69th Academy Award for Best Picture. I'm your host, Kyle Tobiasson, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Miller. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing so great, Kyle. How are you?
I'm really good. We have a guest coming onto this show later on, and we just did the interview for it, and I was feeling really good about it.
I mean, he's actually in the waiting room right now. He's coming in later in the episode, so he's just kind of chilling out while we do this. Yeah. He's listening too. We just muted him. He'll come in a bit, though. You'll get to know him.
Did you watch anything last week?
I watched Candyman.
Oh,
yeah.
What did you like? The new one.
The new one. Clarify. The newest in theaters.
Ooh.
It was a really annoying theater experience, which felt like home. You know, I haven't had an annoying theater experience in a while, and it wasn't that bad. Like, the movie was so good, it didn't really matter, but there was, like, someone who wouldn't get off their phone pretty far in front of me. There was some people chatting away besides, but that's okay. It was a really good movie. I enjoyed it pretty much start to finish.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a great time with it.
Awesome. And it's brisk, too. It's brisk. Like a 90-minute movie, I think.
It starts fast, which I'm really happy with. It kind of gets right into it. I was worried when I saw the trailers for it that it would have a bit of a slow burn at the start, but it's pretty quick. There's murder right away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend that to anybody who's interested. But I find it's with horror movies that I go to when I have a bad theater experience. Did you ever see Ready or Not? It's kind of recent.
Oh, that doesn't...
It's like a hide-and-go-seek movie where they get married and the family's crazy and they got to kill her or else a demon will...
Oh, no, I've heard about that one a lot. Have not watched that one, though.
It was really good, but I will always remember the theater experience for it because there was this like group of like 10, 13-year-olds in front of me who were like Snapchatting with Flash like during the movie and like talking and wouldn't shut up. And then like I remember I told them to get off their phone once. And I was like, can you get off your phone, please? Like, your flash is bothering everybody. And so I was like the only person that actually said something. Yeah. But one lady left and got like a manager to basically tell them that they had to go. And it was so funny because I was the only voice that they had like went up against. They immediately thought it was me, but I had never left. And so this one 13-year-old runs up to the manager and she starts like, you know, he was like yelling at us and like it wasn't us that was being disruptive, it was him, and you should have like heard him, like he was being so rude. I was like, the fuck? Like, I just told you to get off your phone. And then like they all got kicked out. And they were like, we'll see you outside, buddy. I was like, okay. And like, I was by myself, so it wasn't like, you know, I mean, there were 13, but there was 10 of them. So it's like 100 duck-sized horses or something, you know, one of those situations. But then some other guy stood up and he was like, if you're going to be outside, I'll be right next to him. And I was like, oh my shit, God. My guy.
Talking about ready or not.
But it was a great movie, and it was just ruined a little bit.
Yeah, if you enjoyed it despite that says something about a good movie.
Yeah, it was really good. There's one thing that I have to get through before we get into the movie, and it's a little segment called Jason's Got a Birthday Soon.
Oh.
So by the time this episode comes out, the birthday will have already happened. But I just wanted to say thank you, Jason. No, not thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having a birthday.
You know what? You're welcome, Kyle. I'll give you one next year, too.
I just want to say happy birthday, Jason. And...
oh, no. He's getting up. He's grabbing a box. He's handing me the box. Oh,
it's a little chocolatey cake.
Damn, that looks
it's a little
really
snubs
good.
And grubs for the birthday.
Thank you.
I did give you a fork if you wanted to try a little bit before we...
Let me try just a little bit here. Let me give just a little sampling. Oh, that's creamy. This is a lot of whip. A lot of shaved chocolate on it. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's quality, baby. Awesome. That kind of whipped cream, when it's like the good whip, and it just like melts immediately and like coats the mouth. Yeah, that's a good whip. God damn. Now
you can put it down for now if you want.
Now I have to record the rest of this episode
with a mouth coated
staring this thing down. It's just gonna taunt me, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Cool.
Thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.
That's so sweet.
Happy birthday, Snubs and Grubs for the birthday. So of course, actually, I watched something this week.
Yeah, what did you watch?
I was really excited to talk about it too. I watched Coda on Apple TV Plus.
I don't think I've even heard about Coda. What's that all about? What's that business?
It's like the name is a double meaning. It's Coda, child of deaf adults.
Oh.
And also Coda as in musical term. Because she, like the main character is a teenager who is a child of deaf adults, but she is hearing. And she loves singing. But obviously her whole family can't get behind that.
Yeah, really know what's going on.
Yeah, and so like she joins this choir because of this guy that she was interested in, and then the music teacher like says like she's really got some talent, and then like wants her to go to like audition for Berkeley.
Wow.
But then her family is like they're fishermen, and like they can't operate without her because they need to have a hearing person on the boat at all times.
Yeah.
Otherwise they can't hear like, you know, Coast Guard or any other sirens or the radio that's going on. And so she's basically like tied to that life while also wanting to do the singing, but obviously they can't relate to the singing because they can't hear it. And so
it sounds really compelling, actually.
It was
Damn.
Fucking amazing.
You were really selling me on this.
The best movie of this year.
Wow.
So far, at least.
That's crazy.
It's the best movie I've seen so far. It made me so happy and also so sad.
Oh,
it was a sobbing type movie,
real emotional one.
Not just shed a tear. I was fucking sobbing.
Oh no, I'm not gonna watch it now. I refuse to. It's gone. Just let me know how it was.
So,
give me the synopsis later.
It was. I recommend it to everybody. And I mean, you get it for free because you're mooching my Apple TV Plus. So.
Folks, it's great to mooch Apple TV off people because I can get a free Coda whenever I want.
Yeah. So go watch it. So, of course, Season 1 is covering the films from the year 1996. And for Episode 8, we are talking about the movie Twister. So, Jason, have you seen Twister before?
Nope, I have not.
Nice.
The closest thing I've ever been is the ride on Universal Studios, which was super cool, but that's not important. We'll talk about that later in the interview. That hasn't happened yet. Kyle, have you ever seen Twister before?
I hadn't seen it before. My mom sung its praises when I told her we were going to do this episode, but I hadn't seen it before, and so it was exciting to watch it finally, because I remember we had it on VHS, but I think I just wasn't able to watch it when we had it because I was too young.
Very scary.
Yeah.
I will give it that. Those tornadoes? Frightening. There could be one in your closet. You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be pretty scary for a little kid.
Could you imagine a jump scare tornado? Just turn the corner. Whoa, shit! Wind!
Where'd those clouds come from? Well, anyways, should we get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Twister?
We should get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Twister. If you haven't seen Twister yet, go watch it. It's on Netflix. That's where we watched it. If you're interested into the physical media related to this film, I've included the links to the Blu-ray and DVD of it in the show notes. If you buy it through that link, it'll help out the show. Or if you have any other Amazon shopping to do, follow that general link and it'll help out our show in the process. Well, let's just jump into it, shall we?
Let's do it. So, Twister. During the approach of the most powerful storm in decades, university professor Dr. Joe Harding and an underfunded team of students prepare the prototype for Dorothy, a groundbreaking tornado data-gathering device conceived by her estranged husband, Bill. When Harding tells Bill that Dorothy is ready for testing, and that their privately funded rival, Dr. Jonas Miller, has stolen the idea and built his own, Bill rejoins the team for one last mission. Twister is directed by Jan de Bont. It is written by Michael Crichton and his wife, Anne-Marie Martin. It stars Helen Hunt as Dr. Joe Harding, Bill Paxton as Bill Harding, and also features Cary Elwes as Dr. Jonas Miller, Jamie Gertz as Dr. Melissa Reeves, and Philip Seymour Hoffman as Dustin Davis, and more, and Lois Smith as Aunt Meg Green.
Nice.
The runtime is 114 minutes and was released on May 10th, 1996 at General Cinema Theaters in Oklahoma City, which is now known as AMC Penn Square 10. So, Kyle, general thoughts. What did you think about Twister?
I liked it. It was just goofy fun.
It was pretty goofy fun.
Yeah.
There is some dialogue parts that are hard to get past. And I skipped I watched this twice. I like to watch them twice just to really get into the groove of it. And I skipped scenes because it's bad.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the bits there, but like I watched this back on like 1.5 speed to do this plot, and there were still times where I was like, okay, we could skip ahead 30 seconds a couple times. But Yeah, I liked it though. It was fun.
It's a good action movie, and you got to really put yourself in when this was released.
Yeah,
because that's what it's a huge marketing and like it's a huge exciting action movie. So you got to like accept that that's why you're there and kind of focus more on those parts.
Yeah. But should we get into plot?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we open into June of 1969 on a flashback of Jo's family home being hit by a tornado, resulting in the death of her father, who couldn't hold the door. He's just like, this was kind of weird, like right off the bat, because they were all fine a little bit further in after the door was open.
He didn't need to die.
Definitely did not. No. But he does. He does, and it haunts Jo into the present day, which we move into next. So present day 1996. We get a little bit of a dated CGI that fades into the instruments of the National Severe Storm Laboratory. They are identifying that a record outbreak of tornadoes is going to be happening today. So setting the stage for the plot. Bill, played by Bill Paxton, and his new fiancée Melissa, who's Jamie Gertz, meet up with the Storm Chasers group that Bill used to be a part of before his separation with Jo. They're going to finally get the divorce papers from Jo since she claims she finally signed them. We also meet the rest of the crew, most notably Dusty, played by the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Bill reveals to Jo that he's getting married to Melissa, and Jo finally gives him the papers, but they aren't signed. Jo avoids signing them and reveals that they've built 4 of Dorothy, a large instrument pack for studying tornadoes that Bill designed. It's to get readings from inside of a tornado and hopefully help them understand them more and increase the warning time from 3 minutes to 15 or more. Jo seemingly coerced Bill out here to get him to come with them for the first time it came out. And also, as is later mentioned, Melissa mentions that this is like a desperate attempt to get Bill back. Kind of.
It kind of is, yeah. Oh no, did I forget to sign all the divorce papers?
Oh,
whoopsie me. Looks like we need to spend the next 2 days together now in close quarters.
Yeah, because like she spends most of the movie actively avoiding signing these papers. Like the first half of it. Once Bill kind of joins on board, it's like she doesn't need to ask him to anymore, but yeah. Before Bill can get Jo to sign the rest of the papers, they have to run to catch the first tornado. Bill chases after Jo in their chase to get to the tornado to get her to sign the papers, and so he's back in the mix. We also meet Dr. Jonas Miller and his group of storm chasers in the worst piece of exposition.
It's disgusting what they do at this point. This private funded sponsored scientist who's in it for the money. How are you funded?
He went corporate.
Do you know how funding works for projects? You need money.
They literally talk about applying for grants later in the movie. They're basically the same thing except they have a consistent stream of income.
Yeah.
It's just
if your high ground is that we get our money from government grants instead of private ones, I think you're on the same page. I think you're playing for the same team.
One of Jonas's guys runs Bill off the road, so they have to stop into a town where Bill also learns that Jonas stole his design and has his own version of Dorothy. Melissa gets right to the point with Jo in a diner and asks her if Jo is still in love with Bill, which Jo can't answer. Melissa then says, I hope this isn't some desperate attempt to keep him in your life, which clearly it
very
is.
Clearly is. And I do want to say, do you know why everyone went back to town when Bill got his tire flattened? Because even Jonas's team is also in town at the same time. I don't understand why everyone went for one man's flat tire.
Yeah, well, and especially since you learn that Jonas is gonna wait for whatever Bill does. But I think they wanted to rush out and get to that first chase, but they didn't want to get right to a tornado. Yeah. And so they had to it didn't explain that the tornado hadn't happened yet. They just wanted to get to that point.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time going over small plot details of issues that are present because it's not a beautiful screenplay by any means.
No, not really.
But this one was kind of egregious in that I didn't understand why that sequence was happening. Other than, the fact that Jonas wanted to follow Bill, but you see later in the movie he doesn't have to. But whatever. That's kind of confusing. But
But,
Joe still loves him.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, she does. Bill senses the tornado is about to start with this sixth sense, which is apparently better than scientific instruments that Jonas has. And so him and his crew hit the road, and Jonas follows behind. They chase the tornado, and Bill and Joe have a really close encounter with this tornado, having to hide under a wooden bridge after crashing into it just to make sure they aren't sucked into it, which they just like brush off as just this like close call. Yet Joe's truck is like completely sucked up and flipped over and totaled.
Yeah, like when they describe it later, Joe is asked what it was like in the tornado, and she says, "It was windy."
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good line.
That was pretty.
Yeah,
funny. That was a clever.
Jonas and them catch up late, and then they drive past Joe's destroyed truck without helping because they're kind of a dick.
Because we need to set them up as bad guys doing bad things.
But then they just ditch Joe's truck in like the middle of the road and head off towards the next tornado in Bill's new truck that he says only has liability.
Yeah.
I loved his face here, actually. Bill Paxton was really good because you could tell that he was like smiling and nodding because he knew like he was trying to not have this happen, but Joe was like coercing him into it. And he's like, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Nuh-uh. And then it just cuts to. But
it's kind of like a fun insight to what the relationship must have been because you know that Bill's doing his best to say no to Joe, and it won't work. Joe is a woman on a mission. She's getting that truck, and she does.
Yeah. So they dish the truck and they head off. They set up Dorothy into Bill's new truck and head off towards the next tornado. Bill once again shows his tornado instinct and backs off to get on the opposite road to Jonas. They end up in the flanking line where cows fly around them. And I like the line here, "We got cows." And Melissa's on the phone. She's like, "I'm sorry, I gotta go. We got cows."
That was really funny.
And then they just get hit with two tornadoes in the middle of this road, and the truck just like spins around. And then they get out all happy that the tornado basically almost maybe killed them.
Yeah. They're just excited, just jazzed, really just happy to be so close to the action. That's, I guess, how sports fans can feel when they're in like the front row seats of something. But they mess up the mission again. They still can't launch Dorothy.
They still can't get. After this, they all go to Aunt Meg's house for a nice steak dinner. Dusty tells the story of how they all met Bill, and Bill reveals that the tornado that Joe saw as a kid was an F5, as they're all like spooked by it.
That was such a weird sequence. Yeah. When Jamie, I can't remember. Melissa. When Melissa says, "What's an F5?" And then they all go silent, despite this being like a pretty standard rating system that they probably heard of before. But the reference that they give it is just kind of a weird pause that kind of comes across a little cringy. I guess it tries to set up like
how dangerous it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't come off that way. It's just awkward for a bit.
Yeah, like, come on, guys. This isn't like Voldemort. Like, you don't, it's not like,
say
don't say his name.
Just on a computer, they've all removed the F5 key because they can't bear to look at it because it just means so much to them. Like, get over it, gang.
That would have been a fun detail if you like looked at all their keyboards that they were using on their like RVs and all of the F5 keys were removed. So another tornado signal comes up, so they hit the road again. They finally attempt to launch Dorothy in the hail, but a power line knocks it off the truck and drops all the sensors onto the floor. Joe desperately tries to get the sensors back, and Bill and Joe have a little bit of a heart-to-heart here. Bill tells Joe to stop living in the past with her father being dead and all, and look at what she has right in front of her. Bill Paxton.
Yeah. Her ex-husband.
Yeah.
With his fiance right there.
Yep. And he's chasing her because he's mad that she didn't sign divorce papers. Yet he's like, "I'm right here."
Yeah. Maybe she's the tornado that he's chasing. Yeah, I don't know.
But they're like completely mic'd up. And so like Melissa hears all of this and she's just like, all right then.
Classic hot mic gaff. Happens to the best of them.
So they settle down in another town where Joe finally signs the divorce papers after Bill basically says, "I'm here for you." Bill thinks that Dorothy is too light and the sensors won't fly, so that sets up a little bit later. Suddenly, a tornado is just heading towards the town, and so they retreat inside to escape it. They head into like some sort of mechanic place.
Yeah, it looks like a giant shed for doing mechanical stuff or whatever. This is like the big movie theater scene, which is really impressive visually. It is a really... There's a couple things that really stand out to me from like the visual aspect. It's this scene and the one right after that I'm probably are going to be like the scenes they create will stick with me because they look so cool.
Yeah. And like what was funny about this though is like all of their vehicles are fine.
Yeah.
Yet a vehicle literally gets thrown through the building that they're staying in. So
Yeah.
are all of their vehicles like built for like max weight or something?
There's so many things where all their vehicles have plot armor and things get thrown around them, but they don't budge from the wind. It's just something you accept pretty early on that like the only way to have this be a movie is for their vehicles to be wind resistant somehow.
After the tornado hits, they realize it is heading towards Wakita, which is where Aunt Meg lives and where they just had dinner. So Bill and the group head off, and Bill decides to leave Melissa there, but Melissa breaks up with her.
Yeah, but Melissa leaves him there.
She's like, no, you.
Yeah. Can't fire me.
Yeah.
I quit you, Bill.
Which, like, she didn't deserve this. Like,
she didn't deserve any of this.
She didn't
really
do anything wrong. Like, she was just, I mean, like, and she was right. And, like, this was actually, she was kind of healthy here. Like, Bill is not really, I don't think his relationship with Joe is healthy. We can get into this later. But, but Melissa was probably a more healthy person for Bill because she recognized, you know, what he was excited about and, like, knew when she wasn't able to compete with him. And then there's Joe literally coercing him out there in a desperate attempt to get him back into his life when clearly they have issues.
Yeah.
But
it's weird that the therapist understands a healthy relationship dynamic and sets up her own boundaries and leaves when they're not being met. Amen, sister.
That's a good point, actually. That's it's true to her character then.
Yeah, I guess that's good development
Good for
her. Plot, I don't know.
You go, Melissa.
Yeah,
Power
that's the moral.
you. All right, so when they get to Wakita, it is already destroyed. They had absolutely no warning, which is, you know, what they're trying to do here with Dorothy. Meg's house is damaged and about to collapse, so Joe and Bill rush in and find her near their dog. They get her and the dog out just in time for the building to collapse. Joe sees Meg's art and realizes that it holds the secret ingredient they needed for Dorothy's sensors. So the group breaks down aluminum cans and attaches little propellers to each of the sensors while heading towards the tornado. They get into the path of the tornado and place Dorothy, but a tree knocks it over before the tornado can take it. The tree lodges itself into Bill's truck, and it takes a semi-truck being hurled at them by a tornado to knock them free. That semi-truck then explodes, and I mentioned in our interview, but the explosion here was really cool because you can see from inside the truck the explosion hit the window, and that really hits.
This is another one where their vehicles have incredible plot armor.
Oh my God.
Where this semi-truck is being whipped around them, but their car isn't like moved. And also, okay, this was the one that was the most egregious to me. This is the one that made me, when I first watched it, I like rolled my eyes and sighed a little bit. But the semi-truck is what unwedges them from the tree by just gently grazing the front of their car. That would have devastated anything in its path. That is turning literally anything upright in front of it into a pancake. There's no way that's going to gently knock you off the tree. That is moving your car engine 3 miles the other way.
Yeah, and this is another case with the plot armor because a semi-truck is literally flying around them and they're fine.
Yeah.
They're just hanging out there. Like,
they got like a sandbag or two in there. They're good to go.
Yeah. So Bill and Joe then start to chase the tornado again and realize that Jonas and his group who are also chasing it are in the path of the tornado. They try to warn him over the radio, but Jonas doesn't want to listen. As a result, the driver, who was just minding his own fucking business, gets impaled with a metal pole, and then they get stuck into the tornado and thrown out and exploded.
This guy dies like 3 times in that scene. Like, he gets done badly.
Yeah, like that poor guy. Like, Jonas fucking did him dirty.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess Jonas paid the price too, but like...
Jonas also died. I do love that scene is... every time Jonas interacts, his lines are like, I'm a bad person, you should hate me, because he just acts unnecessarily and completely unnaturally like a giant dick when he never needs to for the movie's plot to move anywhere. He's not the tornado. They're there for the tornadoes. They just wanted like a guy that you can root against, I guess, but all he is just like, hey, I'm a bully.
Yeah.
And I'm mean to the people who work for me.
And they never really get into the other group's way.
No.
Like, they never interfere other than to, like, drive them off the road.
Yeah, like, just, like, little stuff that you could have had just as easily. It'd be a friendly competition to do this, and it would have been the exact same result without, like, awkward dialogue where Jonas is like, I'm Jonas Miller, professional douchebag.
Yeah, do, like a Top Gun-y type rivalry rather than, like, them just absolutely, like, being like this. And like Bill even tries to help him.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to weigh down Dorothy a little bit, because like Joe sees that they're in the path and that they can maybe do this.
Mm-hmm.
They can get the data, and like they're willing to make the sacrifice just so that the data can be gotten. But Jonas doesn't want to listen. He's like, "Thanks for now we're sharing valuable information." Fucking dick. Like,
yeah, that was kind of silly, but
yeah,
say la vie, tornadoes.
Then they drive through a house that gets thrown at them and turn into a cornfield. The house seems really funny.
That scene's pretty wicked, though. That like, rocks.
It's just so goofy that a house like literally lands in front of them, and then they drive through it, and then they're out of
that kicks ass. I loved it.
That's the kind of goofy shit that I expected from like this movie. Like
that was delivered so well.
So they turn to the cornfield. Joe gets Dorothy ready, and then they bail out of the truck and jump into the corn. They let the truck drive into the tornado. Dorothy actually works, and they start getting their data, but the tornado shifts, and Bill and Joe have to outrun it on foot after they decide against staying in a absolute murder barn, which is like just full of knives and shit. They secure themselves to some pipes and let the tornado pass over them. They miraculously survive, despite probably having been thrashed around like fucking crazy.
Also, literally any piece of material moving at that speed could kill you.
Yeah.
Some stalks of corn, which there would have been millions of flying around, would be enough to end their lives completely.
Yeah, or like any piece of wood that built the house, like hut thing that they were staying in, could easily have just been thrashed around and fucking...
Yeah, well, you know what? The only person who's actually susceptible to tornadoes is Joe's dad. So everyone else is fine. It's just
and
that
Jonas.
one guy. And Jonas, yeah, I guess that one too.
So yeah, they survive, as do the horses, which was nice. And Bill and Joe ultimately fall back into their dynamic, bickering about data and labs, and they have a big smooch.
Aww.
And then we end the movie. That's it. That's Twister.
That's Twister, yeah. Not incredibly plot heavy, but action heavy, effect heavy.
Yeah.
Looks pretty.
What are some of the parts you liked about it?
The effects parts, those are cool. I really like the music soundtrack. I mean, we'll get into this eventually with our interview when we get to that. But this movie has very good sound design and very good practical effects and sequences that get you between those. And that's kind of that.
I found that the twisters actually looked really good too.
They did.
I don't know if or how they did those. I think it was probably CGI for the most part, but it was good looking.
Since I watched this twice, the first time I watched it, I didn't watch it thinking, okay, this was released in 1996 and is on the forefront of what they're doing. So when I watched it the second time, I put myself in that frame of mind and had a better time watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. This is kind of a movie that is just easy to put on.
Yeah.
Just really easy.
This is the perfect background movie for doing something else.
Yeah, because there's just always going to be something happening, really.
Yeah.
It's what I liked about this movie is while it's not 90 minutes, so not the perfect runtime, it does go. It does just hit the road and then just basically has mild points of stop, but they're just going from tornado to tornado to tornado to tornado.
Yeah.
Which is actually really hard to say. To tornado to tornado.
Tornado to tornado to tornado. Oh, dang, yeah. This is the perfect movie to have going on in a doctor's office waiting room. I would watch the shit out of this waiting to get called in for my turn.
Okay, well, we're going to jump into our interview now. So let's get to that now. Okay, here we go. Bye.
So today we are joined by guest Erik Woods, who is the founder and executive producer of the film, TV, and video game music radio show / podcast Cinematic Sound Radio, which is just celebrating its 25th anniversary this September. Erik has a broadcast journalism diploma from Mohawk College and has spent his professional career in the video production industry, working as an editor, cinematographer, sound recordist / editor, producer, and director. Erik, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here, and I didn't realize it did so many things. But once you guys read that off, I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm a busy man.
That's not a bad-sized resume, yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm glad you found the time to speak to us.
Now you can add Snubs and Dubs season 1 guest onto that resume.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm so excited to be here.
So we are talking about 1996's Twister. And I wanted to start off with just asking, did you watch this in theaters at any point?
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, I was there
amazing.
opening weekend. I had this great friend who I've lost contact with. Her name is Cary, and she knew I loved movies. Like, she's the one that introduced me to Seven and Usual Suspects on the same night.
Oh,
so,
wow.
That's a big night.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So, and she made sure to show me Seven first, I think. I don't know which one is better, but I mean, doing that Kevin Spacey marathon that night was pretty amazing. So we used to go see the movies all the time, but 96 was a huge like movie year for me. I saw anything and everything. I think like From Dusk Till Dawn opened the movie season all the way straight through the end. We saw all the blockbusters. And so, yeah, Twister was something that I knew I needed to see, and I needed to see it in a big theater. We didn't have a lot of like huge theaters that were set up for, the DTS sound or the Dolby Digital or whatever it was, but we had
the luxuries we have nowadays.
Well, exactly. There's Dolby Atmos this and blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But, we went to the local mall. They had a movie theater. And of course they have you always have 4 different screens, and 3 of them really suck, where they put all the movies that have already been, in run for about 4 weeks. So luckily we're in the main theater, and we just sat there, and this thing just blew us away. And of course you're at the infancy of, CGI animation. And so everything is so brand new, and everything seems so every special effects shot seemed very special, because again, you'd never seen anything like this before in movies. And nowadays it's in every single moment of every single blockbuster. So, this was an incredible experience, and I have fond memories of our time going to see it. And then I saw it again and again. And the thing is, I had the luxury of having a friend who was legally blind, and he could see, but it was like putting straws in front of your eyes. So he had that type of blindness. So he had no peripheral vision, couldn't see in the dark. So the thing is, he had a CINB card, and for some reason he was able to get on the bus for free, but he also got to go see movies for free. But he needed somebody to take him to the film and guide him and take him to the seat, whatever. So he and I went and saw everything together.
Wow.
So we did the Star Wars trilogy back to back to back in one day. And so, so we had the luxury of going, hey, we like that movie. Yeah, let's get back into line and see it again. Or, let's see it next weekend. So as much as I saw it with my friend Cary, I then took my friend Tim, and we went and saw it again. And that was, like I said, 96. I saw anything and everything and didn't pay a cent.
That's awesome.
That's an incredible year to have.
To put some reference here, I am 4 months older than this movie, and Jason is about 6 months younger than this movie.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of Cinematic Sounds celebrating its 25th anniversary, it is 6 days older than me.
That's right. Wow. I think I remember listening to your Independence Day episode, and you guys were saying the same thing. It was released the year you were born. So, I was 20.
Yeah,
I saw it. I saw anything and everything.
That's good.
Yeah,
we like to have that perspective, though. That's why we want to have guests on that were there to watch these movies, because obviously we're mostly experiencing these for the first time, which is great, because it's cool to see movies that were coming out when you were literally an infant.
And what I'm kind of curious about, since we missed out on the cinematic experience, is how did Twister compare to other movies in the day for both sound design and special and practical effects?
Yeah, this was it was definitely a revolutionary time. After you get past Terminator 2 and then into Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park changed everything. And even that, from a sound perspective, was absolutely incredible. And a little bit of trivia on that one, and this sort of gets back to my first love, which is film music. John Williams did something totally different on that movie, is where he set up his base camp basically at Skywalker Ranch, and he and the sound team worked together. So they knew that it was going to be a big movie and the sounds were going to be big. So they kind of figured out where the score should come in, where the sound effects are going to come in, who should take a backseat to what, and this and that. And so you can really tell by listening to Jurassic Park that was an important sound mix. And then listening to Twister, which came out 3 years later, it's still a very, very dynamic mix. It doesn't feel overly produced. Everything sounds natural, even though, I mean, they had to make up sounds for the tornado, which is a, weird combination of like animal sounds and other sounds as well. But I remember that time where every single movie, and if I got to see it in like Dolby Digital, or I forgot what the other one was, it was DTS, I think. That was a very, very special experience because not all theaters were equipped to present that type of sound. You either got stereo, sometimes you got mono, like at some real old theaters. But to see and hear Twister, it was incredible. So especially when all these disaster films came out around that time, the big special effects films, they actually felt big and they felt special. Like something like Independence Day just rocked my world. That sound mix was absolutely incredible. Everything is balanced. Everything from the dialogue to the special effects to the music, it all works in tandem. Unlike today where it just feels like a wall of noise. It's an art, but it just felt like people were trying, like the sound designers and sound mixers were trying new stuff here and trying to really make it a real immersive experience. And it was a great time to be alive, to watch movies and experience this sort of special effects and sound revolution.
Yeah, that's a really well put. Actually, it kind of is a small aside because you're speaking about Jurassic Park earlier, but two of my greatest friends got married this summer and they walked down the aisle to a playing of the Jurassic Park theme.
Excellent.
Because they love that movie and that score so much.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. But that's not really, that just made me think of that.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah. It's just almost funnier that a lot of people are that moved by it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with the sound design that went into Twister, what were some of the things that stood out to you? I think you had spoken on this on one of the episodes of the top scores of 1996, where I believe this placed 7th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
it was a great year for film music, for sure. Music was, that's one thing I noticed like right off the bat, especially that shot, the first helicopter shot you see over the cornfields in Oklahoma, as the camera moves its way to sort of a close-up of the van with Bill and his fiance in the truck, and then you got Mark Mancina's this Americana theme going, and it's just so up and lifting and bright, and it's traditional Aaron Copland Americana music, and it's just great, and he did that on purpose. So just hearing that just gets you so excited. And I wasn't overly familiar with Mancina's music at that time. I think Speed had come out a couple years earlier, and I liked it, but I hadn't heard anything like this from him before, and Mancina's a real incredible talent.
What was it about the score and the sound design that really stood out to you and made you rate it so high for the 1996 year?
It's as I said, there's a lot of great stuff in 96, but I think that thematically for the music, it's a memorable film score. But I also think that it was ingenious when Jan de Bont and Mark Mancina were talking about the score and how they were going to score the Twister itself. And there's a key line in the movie. It's weird to say a key line in this script because the script is pretty terrible. But there's a portion where they're eating steak and eggs around the table, and they start talking about the F5. And everybody, once you mention it, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you brought that up. But the finger of God, and that's key. So what they wanted to do with the score and the Twister itself is to give it a religious feel. As if it is like an act of God, it's what it is. And so every time you see the Twister, it has this religious feel because of the choir. And the choir, really low choir at times, gives this awe-inspiring feel to the Twister, but it also gives it a lot of power. And there's also underlining string writing, sort of like a murmur. Anytime you kind of see it, and it's just so effective. So as much as you get the incredible sound effects that were created for the Twister, which are very, very unique, you also get this underlining feel of the absolute power and the destructive power of this of these Twisters, and that's because of what Mancina did with the music.
Yeah, and I also one thing I really love about the music that goes into this is how well they blend the songs, especially Van Halen and Shania Twain, into like the score and the soundtrack. It sounds incredible, and as you said with the mix, the music's always so well placed in there that you can have a conversation throughout a song, but still pick up on the key parts. Like when they drop Shania Twain into the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
You get why the song's playing because you can hear the important lines from that while they're still carrying out the dialogue. I believe it's being played when Joe is talking to, what's Jamie Gertz's character's name? I can't recall. But to Bill's fiance.
Right.
And
they're playing
Melissa,
yeah.
yes, thank you. And they're playing the song kind of showing that, Joe is still in love with Bill. And like that's so well done. The same way they blend humans being into the sound, into the score as well.
Man. The best moment.
Absolutely.
And as a soundtrack fan, the track is called A Walk in the Woods. And it is basically a variation on Van Halen's Humans Being. But Mancina is setting you up to hear that song. So he's actually playing an orchestral variation of it as we are moving from, is it Wakita? Is that the name of the town?
Yeah.
They're going from? And they're heading for another twister. So it starts with them getting the report or alert when they're all eating lunch. And Mancina kicks in with this awesome orchestral variation of this Van Halen song. But the coolest part for me, and again, I love all these helicopter shots in this movie, and I'm a huge fan of just helicopter shots. I love, flying a drone anytime I get a chance. And if I can ever do helicopter shots the way they did it in this movie at any time in my career, I would die happy. But there's this, I really want to do this one time because they do this one shot where they're following the group leaving the house, but they fly over top of the water tower. And all of a sudden, Trevor Rabin's guitar is just wailing away with this incredible lick. And that's another thing about the score is they wanted to make it match the soundtrack, especially since Van Halen was a part of the soundtrack, writing the song and the end credit piece. So they wanted to incorporate that rock and roll guitar feel to it. But that shot with the orchestral version of Humans Being playing, and then the helicopter shot over top of the water tower with Trevor Rabin's guitar going, I get goosebumps listening to that. And I saw it again, and I knew it was coming up last night, and the volume is up to 100 on my TV because it's just so wicked. The visuals, the music, the sound, it all comes together. But then just when it kicks in to the song as they make that turn into the cornfield, you're just headbanging the whole way. It's just an incredible musical moment. And you don't really get, I don't think I've ever heard a better transition from score to song ever. And that moment just sticks with me. But like I said, soundtrack fans were so upset because that track wasn't on the original soundtrack. And we had to wait years until a couple years ago. It was finally released, the soundtrack, the score in its complete form. And we finally got to get that track. And that's the first thing I played once I got it because I knew I had to hear that. It had been, like 20 years since I got a chance to hear it on its own. It's still one of my favorite film moments.
Yeah, it's just criminal leaving that off the initial release of that soundtrack. Because that was as far as like the music goes, that was my favorite moment too, because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Even if the screen went blank at that point,
yes,
it would still be one of the greatest things to happen in that movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those moments, especially nowadays, you don't get a lot of chances to hear music really take to the forefront and really help tell that story and get you excited. It's really rare. And maybe the last time was the portal sequence in the Avengers Endgame. I think everybody knows that. But the reason that's so special is because it's a beautiful mix of the viz and kind of like your anticipation for what's going to happen. And when you hear this theme, a melody can just say so much. And so that's why I think that this score, especially written by somebody who came out of, Hans Zimmer's camp, the fact that it blends the modern score writing of the time. If you think like, The Rock came out the same year. So they have very similar sensibilities, but it still combines that sort of modern sound with a classic thematic leitmotivic score. And I love the combination. Mancina is so good at doing that.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think this kind of, or the effect that they're going for in Twister and other movies around the same time, has that left an effect on sound mixing today, or at least like the movies to come afterwards? I don't know if it's held up for as long. But if you notice in the movies or the years afterwards, that they kind of keep going for that, or is this kind of a one-off that just happens where it all works out so well?
It happens. I'm not a pro, even though I have done some sound mixing, but they're for very, 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 very small jobs. So, but it is definitely an art. It's definitely, you're trying to find a balance. There's always a fight, always. And if you read any books or hear from any composers and the issues that music editors have to go through in order to get the music heard in the mix, it is a fight, an absolute war to try to get your music heard over top of the wall of sound that's being created these days. And I found that, if you listen to music or for films from the early days up and through till the 70s and 80s, it just seemed to be a fine balance. And nowadays, like I said, what I'm finding is a wall of sound where it just gets to the point where, and it's almost like with music, everything is just compressed to the loudest possible, decibel. And it's getting to the point where it turns very muddy. Like, for instance, and I hate to go on a tangent here, I remember watching Star Wars as a kid and absolutely being blown away when the Star Wars main title hit and John Williams' music is playing. It was just so forceful and so in front, and it was so powerful. But I watched the last three movies, and I went to a theater with an incredible sound system, and this main title hit, and it was so flat. It was so quiet. It didn't make an impact at all. And I'm finding that music is just getting mixed lower and lower and lower, where back in the day, it was just in your face and you felt it. And I'm not sure whether it has to do with the numerous channels of sound that is now being produced. I was just going to
ask. I wonder if that's having like something with like Dolby Atmos or and that's all these like 7.1 systems that are there now. It also depends on need to fill.
I think it also depends on where you go see it, because I saw Solo, and I don't go to the IMAX theaters very often, but it was the only ticket that was available. And I saw Solo, and it felt like a different mix to me than going to see it in a regular theater. And I'm not sure whether that's just me, but I'm also finding the theater experience to be a little underwhelming. The mixes don't sound right to me, but maybe that's just because I've almost given up on the theater experience. I would rather stay home and eat my own food and sit in my own chair and take bathroom breaks when I want to and not miss anything. So I have my own setup in my own house. Right?
I can blame you.
Yeah.
I love the theater experience. Well, and as much as I want to stay home, like I have almost 1,000 Blu-rays, but like, from in my perspective, there's nothing that compares.
Yeah, it can be great. The problem is also it's money. It's so expensive. I mean, I got two kids. Geez, going to see like How to Train Your Dragon was, oh my goodness, it was hundreds of dollars. But
great score in that though.
If you ever want to talk about How to Train Your Dragon and John Powell, I'm all up in that. That's a whole other thing. But mixes definitely have changed, but they are, still very skillful sound engineers and editors that are working, and they're really trying to push the art form. And when you see a film with an incredible mix, it really is something to behold. And I just kind of wish that we were at a time where, the music editors weren't fighting so hard, and that there was a nice balance, because I remember seeing E.T. and that music was right in front of you and in your face. And this is a story about, a bunch of kids saving an alien, and you got this operatic score by John Williams, and it's just right there. You're feeling it. You're feeling every single feeling that Elliot is feeling, but it's because of the music and because the music is so well mixed. And you don't really get those moments nowadays unless I'm just an old fart, but I'm only 45, so but maybe I'm just getting to that point where it's get off my lawn. And
well, I'm kind of right there with you. Again, with the theater experience, I get a little sad at the fact that when I'm at home, I can change the TV sound settings to have a better experience than when I'm in the theater. It's a little disappointing. It kind of makes me not care too much to go.
You can actually turn the subtitles on at Tenet instead of having to suffer through the horrible mix.
Christopher Nolan spits in the face of sound design. That was
I'm right there with you. Yeah. Nolan's a whole other mystery. So, yeah.
Do you think if Twister came out today, it would have the same effect that it did back in 96? Like, imagine if they had today's kind of sound production and everything else. Because I don't feel like Twister had an incredible amount going on for it other than a really renowned like visual effects and sound design to it. But if they tried to recreate that today, do you think it would have the same effect it did back in 96?
No, I don't. And the reason I say that, and I hate being cynical, it's just finding special effects that are special is rare. There aren't too many movies that I'm watching these days where I'm like, oh my God, how did they do that? That is amazing. So back in 96, the whole point was to finally see, a tornado on screen, like a real tornado, real in quotes, but, to experience that really for the first time, because we had never seen anything like that before. And again, we're at that time where we're 3 years removed from Jurassic Park, and we're like, okay, what are they going to do next? How are they going to, how is this going to evolve? And it was because it's still a classic special effects picture because a lot of it is practical. From what I read, there's only about 20 minutes of CGI in this movie. So that's where I find it special, when it's used sparingly and really does help tell the story and doesn't overblow it right at the beginning or middle of the film. So, as much as we see, I think it's 4 twisters in this movie. We see 3 early on. They really left all the good stuff to the end, which again is something that's happening, sort of like in Marvel films where they just wait and then they blow everything up in the last act. But this felt like it was building up to that, and you couldn't wait to experience that moment. And again, it went from like a small tornado to the F5. And it all felt like it was going there naturally. And so, if you look at, like Roland Emmerich pictures, it's just a massive amount of everything and anything in the frame. And it's really tough to just concentrate on, let's say, even the story, or like, what am I supposed to be looking at? Whereas in Twister, you know what you're looking at. It's framed that way. It's framed perfectly. Jan de Bont's an incredible cinematographer as well. He knows how to shoot a picture of this sort. And I also feel that the edit probably nowadays would be just so lightning fast. Cut to make it seem kinetic. Where
you wouldn't
Twister,
get those nice tracking helicopter shots now.
There's points where, like right at the end, where they're destroying the barn and they're running towards somewhere else. But there's a great shot where the camera's just tracking along, and you get to see the destruction of the barn from the beginning right to the end without cutting. It's just, hey, soak this in. This is an incredible shot, and we want you to really, really, really experience it. Where nowadays it's just everything's so fast, so shaky cam, and there's just so much going into effects pictures nowadays as well. It's all over, and you're wondering, what really is special about special effects nowadays. And again, I'm not against CGI. CGI definitely has its place in it. It really does work, and watching the Corridor Crew, web series that they have. I'm blown away by the digital artists and the work that they do nowadays. I just find that it's there's a point where you really need to hold back. You gotta hold back. You don't need to throw everything at us for 2 hours. As much as you think that the audience can't sit down and pay attention and they'll lose focus after 5 seconds. No. We can wait. At least I think we can. Let's set this up. Let's get going. Let's care about the characters, and then give us something huge at the end. And that's kind of the way I feel. I don't think Twister, essentially, would be special at all. We wouldn't talk about it if it was released today.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to some like recent disaster movies like Geostorm, which was horrible. But it's just like it's just another example of just CGI being thrown at your face. Like it doesn't even matter anymore what's happening on the screen.
Right.
And I wonder if a lot of these movies. You mentioned that only 20% of this movie was special effects or like visual effects or
CGI.
I wonder if that was because CGI was so costly and it didn't look as great back like in 1996. They had to use things like practical effects and miniatures and stuff like that. And so now it looks really good still, but now they would just say, "Oh, we'll do that."
Right.
In CGI, or like you mentioned Marvel movies, like they're all pre-rendered before they even start shooting, basically.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. And I wish I could remember the Ian Malcolm line from Jurassic Park, and I said it in another podcast.
You went so far to ask if you could do it. You didn't.
They didn't stop to see if they should, they were so preoccupied whether or not they could do that they didn't stop to think if they should. Yes. That is the mantra. That should be the mantra for special effects pictures. It's like, do we really need this here? But it all goes back, I think, to Jaws. If that shark worked, it would have been a different picture. And the fact that the shark didn't work, we got that classic film because Spielberg had to think on his feet and go, all right, how in the world are we going to show the shark without showing the shark? And of course, then that's when they invent the barrels. And so you rarely see the shark in that movie, but you know he's there. And it makes it even more scary because you don't know, because you can't see him. And that's the same thing with Jurassic Park. I mean, they waited to show the dinosaurs until about halfway through that movie. And you're right, it is the limitation of the special effects, and they probably couldn't afford more than 20 minutes of CGI. But then you think about it, it's still a big effects picture, and there are some incredible practical effects. If you think about Twister's drive-in theater sequence, I mean, there's some incredible Twister stuff, CGI in there, but then when they actually get into the garage and they're hiding from the garage, most of that is all practical, from the point of the drive-in theater sign crashing through the building. And then just when you think it's over, a station wagon comes hauled at but that's all practical, right? And you know that they're throwing real cars and a real sign, and the stuff that's flying within the room is all real, and that gets you involved and really makes you feel as if you're there, because that whole sequence again was recreated for the Universal theme park ride, which I got to see, and it's amazing, and it just feels like you're right in the movie in that sequence. And it's awesome. Bloody scary. But yeah,
actually, I was able to go through that one as well, and watching it now, it was amazing. It was one of the things I remember most from the Universal Studios was being in there and knowing that it's just whatever, some like robot things on the track, but then it starts moving. You're like, okay, I am gonna die here. Like clearly this thing is gonna murder me, and then like it stops on its track.
Yeah. So that's what I like about that. It was like, hey, how are we going to do this without showing the twister? And so we're going to do it practically, and here's what's going to happen. And so I like that blend of, like, if you're going to see a car chase, I want to see real cars crashing and flipping, and I want that sense of danger, and I don't want CGI cars. That doesn't impress me. When I see a real stunt driver doing real stunts, if I see somebody doing real stunts, that's where like Tom Cruise doing his own stunts still nowadays, super impressive. I love that because he's actually doing it. He's actually there, and you're invested in that character, and now you're invested in what's happening to him and the danger, and that just is absolutely thrilling.
Yeah, there's one practical moment in this movie that really stood out to me. It was when they were approaching the F5 the first time with Dorothy 3, and a tanker truck just thrown at them, and it explodes, and you get this shot of the inside of the car, and all you see is the glass just basically shatter, or crack all over the windshield, and you really feel the explosion from inside there, and you could, and that was all because of the effect, not just because they showed an explosion.
Right, and it's a real tanker that they exploded, and there's real trailers that are being flung at them. I mean, there's times where you can tell, there's a CGI cow and a CGI tree.
Yeah.
It's still very funny and very effective, and it works. But yeah, that whole sequence, I mean, the house, for instance, that they drive through. Yeah. I mean, the first time you see that house is actually a CGI house. You wouldn't think that, but I mean, you're looking like, how in the world did they make that house do that? And again, thanks to the corridor crew, I found out that they spent 6 months just working on that house, and it took 12 hours, I think, to render out just one frame.
Oh my God.
And so it's just this one guy just forever just to do that one effect. But what's so great about that and what makes it feel real is that when they are crashing through it, they're driving a real car through a real set.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
There's no bullshit. It's just that's it. It's like, you know, from the beginning to the end, they crash right through a real home, and that sells the effect. I love that. I love that mix of practical and CGI. Same thing happened in Jurassic Park. You know, Stan Winston's incredible dinosaurs mixed with the CGI dinosaurs. It that just adds it adds to the realism, I find.
Yeah.
I find like with that car driving through the house, if that had been CGI, it probably would have been pretty corny, pretty like, okay, it's just an action scene.
Yeah.
But with the practical effects, I just had a goofy smile on my face the whole time because it's so ludicrous,
It's so
but actually
ridiculous.
unfolding.
It is ludicrous. That's exactly that's the perfect word for this sequence, because just things just happen. It's like, oh, what's next? What's happening next? And that's what I love about it. But you're right. The physics would not have worked in CG. It's really tough. I mean, we know as human beings, when we see something that just doesn't look right, and no matter what it is, we're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. But when you see something real actually captured by the camera, you're like, well, that is something else. No matter how ridiculous it is, you really do appreciate what the people had to do in order to get that done.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just got one more question here for you, Erik. Since this is your 100th rewatch of Twister, how has it held up for you over the time?
It's still as dumb as it was when I first saw it. The script is terrible.
Yeah. There's this one moment where like he's talking about Jonas when the first time you meet him.
Yeah.
He went corporate. He's just in it for the money.
Because he got sponsors, but how are they funded? Where's your money coming from?
What's so bad about that?
He's not in it for the science.
I feel bad for Jonas. I mean, he's an asshole, but it's like, I mean, he didn't deserve what happened to him at all. Or his driver. My God, his driver just gets destroyed.
Yeah.
It's such, oh, it's so bad. It's so mean. But you're right. Yeah. The character, it's that whole opening sequence takes forever. The whole divorce, and I'm like, oh, I honestly don't care. But I guess they're trying to introduce you to this ragtag group of, you know, tornado chasers or storm chasers, and I'm like, even when I saw it, I was like, let's get going. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Again, I don't need it. I don't need like a big special effect or whatever right at the beginning, but it's just like, this is the lamest excuse to have our characters together. And yeah, the whole divorce, that whole subplot was just stupid. And you're right. Even the, you know, we have to have bad guys, and that made no sense, and I didn't care. And let's just follow the storm chasers. That is the drama. And so. Yeah, the script is pretty bad, and we were talking about this just before we started. I would love to count how many times they said the word "okay" in this. Like there's one portion, I think it's after the first tornado, where, you know, Bill's coming out and talking to us. Are you okay? I'm okay. Are you okay? You okay? Joe walks by. You guys okay? Yeah, we're okay. Okay. And that is throughout the whole screenplay. Like even points where they're in just in peril, and it's like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Stop saying okay. Oh, but besides that, you know, it gets us to where we want to be. And once you get into those action sequences, it's still thrilling. The first time we see the tornado destroy that barn, and it's an iconic shot. Again, single frame. Camera's tracking with the pickup truck, and all behind there's a tornado just absolutely destroying a barn. And I saw that for the first time, and I was like, holy cow, what am I witnessing? And I saw it again last night, and I just could not wait to see that shot again. Still holds up, still incredible animation by the animation team. And that whole sequence is just absolutely thrilling. Although, you know, like Joe trying to get out and touch the tornado, or she wants to commit suicide or something. Again, that's a whole ludicrous subplot as well. I don't care. It's like, let's just get that. I want to see storm chasers chasing a tornado and see what they have to do. And I think that's the drama. You didn't have to add all this other stuff in it. But watching it again, it's still thrilling. I still have such a great time with it, and I just anticipate every moment. I can't wait to see this. I can't wait to see that. Here's the thing. There are set pieces. You don't get a lot of movies. Again, I just keep complaining like old man, but it's just like, there's a separate set piece, right? You can pick out certain sections. It's almost like the asteroid field and The Empire Strikes Back, or the battle from, like those are set pieces in a bigger whole, right? Over the overarching story. But you can just tell it's like, I can't wait to get there. I can't wait to get here. Well, we're getting to the drive-in soon. Are we gonna see this soon? It's just the anticipation of those scenes, and I still feel the rush as if I've seen this for the first time.
Nice.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel that too. There's a lot of cool scenes and locations where I'm excited to see the house collapse.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the destruction around that, because they've built such a cool environment for it. And it's just really well done.
And the fact that it's all shot on location in Oklahoma and Iowa, and the fact that they had to, build a destroyed town. I love that sort of stuff. It's like, Spielberg in Saving Private Ryan, in the last battle that they, have in the end of that movie, they had to create a town so that they can destroy it. And I love that. I love the artistry behind that, behind practical effects, something that it seems it's already lived in, and that you can actually go there. And, when you see Joe and Bill and everybody else walking through the destroyed town, that's a very powerful moment. It's one of the rare dramatic moments that really, really work. You can just get a sense of just how powerful and devastating these storms are. And that sequence is really, really well done.
Absolutely. And I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this up with. So thank you so much, Erik, for dropping in to
Sure.
offer
I hope I didn't talk
commentary.
too
much. No,
God.
you talked the perfect amount. It was great.
No, we
All
love to
great
listen,
information. First-hand recounting of watching this in person in theaters, which we may never get a chance to do.
Yeah. But if you get a chance to go see this in the theater, if it ever comes out again, go check it out. It's really one of those. It's got to be seen on the big screen. You got to experience it that way. It's just it's a crowd pleasing adventure. And as much as, like I said, as much as the story is so dumb, it's still a really, really fun. And of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman, one of his early roles. It's just weird to see him as this character.
Being such a goof.
I didn't recognize it was him until way too late into the movie. At first, I'm like, it was just some goofy guy. And then halfway through, like, wait a minute.
Wait, he was in doubt.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. How did they slip him in here?
That's awesome. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman being a goof. He's great in Punch Drunk Love as well. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
I love the scene of him and Adam Sandler on the phone where they're just screaming at each other over the phone to shut up. Just like,
he was an incredible character actor.
Yeah.
He really disguised himself in every single role that he played. He could do anything and everything. Yeah, and to see him in this early role, you're like, absolutely. He could do anything and everything. He could be a total goofball, but he has a serious side to him, but he just jumped into every role that he was ever in and gave it 100%. And you could tell he was so perfect in this movie. Honestly, he was a memorable character. But like I said, check this one out in the theater if you can. And also, I'm not sure whether you guys do or whether your listeners do, stick around for the end credits. You get 9 minutes of Eddie Van Halen just wailing on his guitar for an incredible end credit piece of music it's fantastic. And it's played over top of beautiful second unit shots of actual storms that were captured by the filmmakers while they were out there in Oklahoma and Iowa. So again, we're talking about a marriage between sound and visuals. Stick around for the end credits. It's fantastic.
Yeah, literally every piece of this movie's got that. That's amazing. Well, Erik, where can our listeners find you and Cinematic Sounds Radio?
Sure. You can find us at cinematicsound.net. You can also hit me up on the socials, Twitter at CinSound Radio. We are on Facebook at Cinematic Sound. I'm on Instagram, but hardly. But if you want to look me up there, it's cinematic_sound_radio. And that's basically where you can find me.
I'll leave all those links in our show notes and a link to your podcast show as well. So all of our listeners will hopefully go over there and check you out.
I hope they do.
Well, thanks again for joining us, and congrats on 25 years.
Thank you very much. This was a pleasure, and I hope we get to do it again.
I hope so
Me too.
Thanks, Erik.
Well, thank you, Erik, so much for joining us for that beautiful conversation about Twister.
That was great. I loved having Erik here, and I hope we have him on as soon as possible.
I hope he just is here every episode.
Yeah.
I just want him every
Eric's
time.
the third co-host now.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Eric. Should we get into reviews, though?
Yeah, I guess we should just get into some reviews. Let's do that part of this. So give me a quick critics versus audience. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are you jiving with?
I think that the critics are probably going to be harsh on it because it's just kind of goofy. So I'm not going to go high. I'm actually going to go like 65 maybe. And then audiences are going to love it. So I'm probably going to, but maybe not the most. So maybe like 80 for audiences.
Well, you know what, Kyle? You were dead wrong.
Oh,
except for critics. Critics, you were fine. Yeah,
cool.
Audiences, you were a little off. But that's okay. Critics, for Rotten Tomatoes, 61%.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Audience, 58%.
Oh, wait, what?
They were sour on these grapes.
That's so strange to me.
Yeah. I think part of the issues were that the dialogue is really dog shit. It's really bad.
True, it is pretty bad.
Yeah. IMDb, 6.4.
Yeah.
More in line with what I thought audience would be. And then Metacritic, 68. So you're actually pretty close for the critic score.
Yeah.
Audience score, they weren't that big on it, despite it doing absolute gangbusters in the box office.
Oh, hit me with that number.
So this movie made $495.7 million.
That's money in the bank.
On a budget of $92 million.
Damn.
That's a huge return.
That's pretty good.
A lot of people saw this for only above half of them liking this movie. But when they like it, they love it.
Yeah.
We get Erik Woods, who will see this 100 times.
Yeah, that's true.
So
but he also saw it for free, so he wasn't very contributive to this box office. I don't think it mattered. It did okay without Eric's help.
Oh yeah, no, because it peaked. It was number 2 at the box office for 1996.
Yeah. Then I think that's probably why I put this one on the schedule, because it's
such a commercial success.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that it also does surprise me that despite being such a commercial success, that audiences maybe weren't as keen on it.
I really don't get what happened there. That's a weird one.
It is weird.
Maybe it's just a bunch of people who... No, because like 2.5 is still... I don't know. I can't explain the human condition and why I voted so poorly for this movie. Guess we're getting to our score tab now.
Let's do it.
All right, Kyle. What are you giving this thing in the enjoyment category?
I had a pretty goofy, fun time. It's easy to watch. I'm going to give it a... Shit. I'm kind of dancing between 3.5 and 4 right now.
That would, if you net those out, or average those out, 3.75, that rounds up to a 4?
Okay, sure. I'll go 4.
So I'm a little lower on this one.
Yeah.
I am going to give it a 3.
Oh, wow.
The action-y parts are really cool.
Yeah.
I really love the practical effects of it, but I didn't care about so much of what was this movie gets in its own way so much.
It does.
That they could have streamlined this down to probably in the neighborhood of 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Had yourself a tight 90 minutes heavy on the action sequence, and I think this would have been a really good movie. But then they add so much, like
the plot doesn't make any
matter.
sense.
Yeah, it just gets in its own way so much.
You know what? You're right. I'm not going to say you convinced me, because I think I just convinced myself. It's a 3.5 for me.
Okay, well,
I don't think it's a 4, because 4 is pretty high.
4 is among the best that you can do. 3.5, a little lower.
Yeah.
All right, what is the craft on this? How would you give it?
I do commend what they've done with like the practical effects and the CGI. The sets were amazing.
Yeah.
Cinematography was quite good too. Probably gonna give this another 3.5.
That's fair. So for me, this is what this movie's all about for me. They put a lot of attention to detail in the shots. The sets were so cool. The practical effects were amazing.
Yeah.
So as we had talked about in the interview, I'd seen this, like they had an attraction at, I believe it's Universal Studios, where they kind of walk you through and recreate a bunch of the effects that go into it. And it is so compelling being in that room, watching that stuff happening. So remembering that, and I was a kid when I saw that. I don't remember anything else about that but going through that one ride for a movie. I didn't know what it was. Flash forward to watching it, and I still felt really impressed by these effects. So I am going to give this for craft a 4.5.
Wow.
I really enjoyed, like, everything for the sound was incredible, everything for the effects, and I really felt like this was a well put together movie with a dog shit plot.
Yeah.
But I'm giving this a 4.5 for craft.
Okay.
Pretty confidently. Execution.
That wasn't a good sound for that.
No.
2?
Yeah. How do you not give it something like that? You're giving this one a 2?
I think some of the actors were doing their best with what they were given.
Yeah.
But what they were given was oh
bad.
boy.
It was absolute stinky doo-doo. I'm right there with you. I'm also going to give this a 2.
All right.
I will say that I did actually think that Helen Hunt gave a good performance. I think she actually gave quite a strong performance.
It was pretty reserved in a way. Like there were some moments where like it's clear what she's thinking and you know what she's thinking, like when Melissa's confronting her in the diner.
Yeah.
And, like, she just kind of has like a look on her face, and like the way that she pauses in sometimes when you can tell that she's either delaying or internalizing something that Bill said, like in the opening scene, when she realizes that Melissa's here and that he is getting married. Like those are really good moments.
Yeah.
I think she did pretty good.
Yeah. And that is what saves it from being any lower than a 2 for me, because this was heading straight for the steaming pile of like 1.5.
Yeah.
If it weren't for Helen Hunt, like no one else really gives something big enough to save it, but that is like a 0.5 because she gives a good performance in this with given absolutely nothing to go with. What's your rewatchability?
This is probably pretty high. I think I'm gonna go 4 for this.
4? I think that's fair.
I want to rewatch this again. I want to watch this with other people. I want to recommend it to people. Say it's if you want a goofy, stupid, fun film, put this one on. It's good.
That's true. That is really true. Yeah. I'm going to give this one a 3. There are scenarios where I would want to watch it again, but for the most part, this is such a strong, I will watch it if it's on, 100%. I don't think I'm going to spin this myself, though. I think this one might be kept off until the exact moment arises where I should watch it with some friends when we're goofing around, getting a little rowdy. Otherwise, it's the perfect like waiting room movie where this would be compelling in that scenario, but I'm not going to go on there and play it.
With some of these movies, like I mentioned in the Larry Flint episode that I considered watching. I don't know if did I mention it or did I just tell you? But anyways, I talked about how I was thinking about getting the Blu-ray, but I didn't, and I was happy about that. In this case, I want to get the Blu-ray because I don't have it.
That's fair.
And I hope they do like a 4K because that would be good.
And you know what? Like Eric was saying, if this had another theatrical release, I would be right there. Absolutely. Yeah. I would really want to see this one in theaters, but I'm still going to keep it at 3 anyways.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
where's that leave us?
Final scores. Kyle, you have given this a 13.
Cool.
Jason, you have given this a 12.5.
Oh, it's literally 0.5.
Literally 0.5 off.
So that's actually 65%. So I'm right in line with critics.
You were right in line there. I'm a little lower than you are, not by a whole lot. I'm 63% instead of 65. But yeah, we're pretty in sync on this one because I think what it does amazingly well, and what it doesn't do, it doesn't even try to do. It gets in its own way so much.
Yeah.
All right, but the critical part of this, the real hard call, where does this slide into the list of movies this year?
Can you read off our current rankings?
Kyle, your current order right now, from top to bottom: Fargo, Independence Day, Bottle Rocket, Trainspotting, Primal Fear, The People vs. Larry Flint, Lone Star. Where does Twister slide into that bunch?
I think it goes above Primal Fear, below Trainspotting.
Above Primal Fear, below Trainspotting. You were putting this 5th overall so far of the movies. I am going to put this below Primal Fear, I think.
Wow, okay.
There's cool action scenes, but there's also a novelty factor to that where, like, I normally don't want to skip parts of movies, but for this one I had to for my own sanity watching it again.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to slide this. I think Primal Fear had a better cohesion than this one did, even though I didn't even like that movie that much. So this one, to me, is going a little lower, and it's going to go in my 7th place spot. People vs. Larry Flint will still be my lowest ranked.
Wow.
Whereas you have Lone Star. Criminally low, but that's your own prerogative.
It was criminally bad, so.
God damn it.
Look at us. 2 weeks in a row with variation.
We're disagreeing. This one's not by a whole lot.
No,
this is a primal fear separates us. And Edward Norton is the only thing standing between us and agreeing again.
Do you got any fun letterbox reviews?
I do have some fun
letterbox reviews.
Bringing in 3 stars is Zach. These psychopaths basically torture Jamie Gertz for 2 days, kind of bully her for not being into their whole tornado bullshit, and then she ends up being humiliated by her fiance who gets back together with his ex. Cool trip to Oklahoma. Because it does start as them just going for like an afternoon ride.
True. I'm Team Melissa. Like, this was, she absolutely got
she was done
dumped
bad
on here. Like, yeah. That I feel bad for her.
Yeah. Olivia Craighead, 4 stars. This is a movie about getting sexually horny for a major weather event. Loved it.
Is there another kind of horny?
Is there any other kind of horny? Getting sexually horny for a weather event. And one more. Bjorn Brockman, 3.5 stars. Stormy. Yes, it was, Bjorn. It was very stormy.
Awesome.
All right. Some awards details here. Cool. What do you figure for this? Where do you think this might be getting some praise? Where would it not be getting some praise?
Probably in like the visual effects area, but definitely not any writing, acting anywhere in there. So I'm gonna say or maybe no. I was gonna say score, but I actually know that for a fact that it's not nominated. So I can't even say that. But it has a good score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe just effects.
You're close. So it is nominated for Best Visual Effects and Best Sound Design.
Ah, that's a good one.
That's its own one.
Good one.
It didn't win either, but it was probably a strong contender for both, which I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. How do you feel on that?
I'm happy with that. Being in the top 5 for those categories is probably fair.
And it always comes down to a toss-up after that anyways. Mm-hmm. Other notable awards. So it did win the BAFTA for Best Visual Effects.
Cool.
On the other end
it was going up against Independence Day.
Yeah, it would have been.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum, this movie was nominated for the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Written Film, grossing over $100 million. And, it won that one. I'm sorry. This won the award for the Worst Written Film, grossing over $100 million from the Golden Raspberry Awards.
Yep.
And there was a nomination for Worst Supporting Actress for Jamie Gertz, but she did not win.
Really? They're going to do her that bad again, too?
You know what's worse? She did win the Worst Supporting Actress Award for the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards.
Oh, my God.
So she took home some hardware, at least.
I
don't blame
not even
her.
On screen do I feel bad for her, but off screen I feel bad for her, too. What the fuck?
Yeah, she was done poorly. She was given a character with no real depth. Actually, she didn't even do that bad. I don't know where this hate's coming from. It's a terrible screenplay. Yeah. The writing in this is awful. It's not her fault. Interesting
Give
facts.
me the facts.
All right, Kyle, skill testing question. Can you name the animal that had the sounds sampled for the tornado noises?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Maybe like a cat for the hissing?
Spelling wise, you were very close.
Oh.
It was a slowed down camel.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Huh.
You try and think what noise a camel makes, because I don't know it.
I thought they just spit.
Yeah, they just slowed down a spit take.
Cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so that's where some of that sound came from. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff that went into there, but part of that, a slowed down camel noise, whatever that is.
That's cool.
The CGI cow picked up by the Twister sisters was originally a CGI zebra from Jumanji. So they reused that asset.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And clearly
awesome.
Made it a bit better.
Yeah.
But the basis was from Jumanji.
That's great.
And the last one, because this is kind of a cool sciencey thing. The instrument package used in the movie, Dorothy, is a homage to the instrument pack real tornado chasers attempt to place in the paths of tornadoes. The Totable Tornado Observatory, or Toto, Dorothy and Toto are both characters from The Wizard of Oz, who are also sucked up by a giant tornado. So the Toto is the real thing that was used by scientists. So Twister made Dorothy.
Wow. They even have like a picture of Dorothy from
The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, on it.
Cool.
Those are fun facts about
very
Twister.
Fun facts.
There are a lot of really interesting things about this. This is worth, if you're ever bored, go on the IMDb page and look up interesting facts. There's a lot of really cool stuff about this movie and what went into it.
Cool.
I'd recommend.
I'm going to have a dig.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I think I said all that I care to say about Twister. I think that's the book closed for me. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, no, I just think it was fun.
It is a blast. It's a romp.
It was like in total contrast of the last episode with Lone Star, where I was like really struggling to watch. This one, it was just like really easy.
It's easy to
really
well,
easy.
The action's really easy to watch. The opening scene, anytime where there's more than a couple lines of dialogue in a row, it does become hard to watch.
Yeah,
but
it's
whatever.
fun.
It's Twister, baby.
It's Twister.
It's Twister.
And you can complain about us if we go corporate or something. He doesn't even care about the science.
What the hell, Bill? Yes. What? I hate it. Why is Jonas... it gets in its own way.
Well, I want to thank you guys for listening to Season 1, Episode 8 of Snubs and Dubs. One other big thank you to our guest for this episode, Erik Woods. We loved having you on, and we can't wait to have you on again. Make sure to check out all of his links and check out Cinematic Sound Radio Network in the show notes. As always, you can find us everywhere on social media at Snubs and Dubs. That's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Letterboxd, etc. We're also on Good Pod, so make sure to check us out there and join our official Discord. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this film or on this episode, so please send us a message or a tweet or a question or a recommendation or anything else. I would love to hear from you. I'm also at Kyle Tobiasson on Twitter, and Jason is Windy_Mills on Twitter. Of course, all of those links are going to be in the show notes. Make sure to leave a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. If we had a 5-star review, we would read it off right now. So make sure to go leave that for next episode, and we'll talk about you. Make sure to check back next week for another episode. Here is a sneak peek of the film we're going to talk about.
For 400 years, golf has been a gentleman's game. A game of tradition, etiquette, and above all, sportsmanship. Until now.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah!
Meet Happy Gilmore. He was a hockey player.
Touch my puck, baby! Don't you ever touch my puck!
That's right. Next episode, we're talking about Happy Gilmore, so make sure to watch it before next episode. Can't wait for you guys to hear it. Thanks for listening. That's a wrap.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.